everyone. Welcome to Steph on Skills, powered by Enginuity. I've got a father-son team with me today. And that's because you've got loads to say, haven't you, on what is going on in the engineering world and skills and the image of apprenticeships and things. So we have Richard and Will Bridgman with us. Tell us a bit about your business, because you started it, didn't you, Richard?
Yeah, I started it 35 years ago with my wife in a little old school in Feltwell in Norfolk, never believing we would grow to the size we are now. And as I said to you earlier, I was the brawn and my wife was the brains.
Yeah.
I can make things, but she made sure, most important with the SMEs is getting your money in.
Yeah.
And she was good at getting the money in.
And we've evolved over the years. So I joined the business 24 years ago, and now we employ about 120 people across 2 sites in Thetford, Norfolk, and we're contract manufacturers. We make other people's products for them, parts and machines for lots of different sectors, theatre sector, for the offshore sector, for defence, a range of products.
Yeah, and what type of stuff, just to give people a sense of what they might be able to recognise has come from,
So we've
sites.
traditionally made a lot of high-speed winches for the theatre industry, for flying performers in shows, in theatres around the world. We do umbilical systems for offshore vessels. We do balconies for one of our clients. So a real broad range. We'll take all sorts of projects on.
Yeah. And
But our passion is training young people.
Yeah, so
When I moved up, how old are you, Will, now?
48.
I didn't want to say that, didn't you? You were like, oh.
young.
Moved up from Surrey 48 years ago with a company that I went with after I'd done my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And soon realised that when we started our own business, we couldn't get any skilled workers or enough skilled workers. I was apprentice trained, my father was apprentice trained, so I thought, well, we need to look at doing apprenticeships.
And what was that like, getting started and doing that?
It was very hard because that wasn't, apprenticeships weren't in favour at that time. It's time of Maggie Thatcher and everything like that, where it's all servicing. We can make more out of service industries than making things. But we persevered, and now we've got a history of, having apprenticeships for 30 odd years now. But I learnt from a company called MBDA, and I went there one day, and there was a guy there, and he was telling us out about apprenticeships. And I thought, if I can do 10% of what MBA are doing, we're over the Rolls Royce of apprentices in Thetford.
Yeah.
And we've achieved that now.
Yeah.
And we're well known as an SME for apprenticeships.
Hence your OBE as well.
That was very nice. I got that, 7 or 8 years ago, and that was for what I've done for young people. It's not just apprenticeships, but we work very closely with the DWP
So
and
it's
everything
Department
like
for
that.
Work and Pensions.
Yes.
Yeah. So you work closely with the government on all this. And what's it like now, Will, from your perspective, in terms of getting people through the door, working with colleges or, and all of that?
You've got to have a strategy. There's got to be a purpose. We had National Manufacturing Day 2 weeks ago. So we had every year 6 primary school child from our local town and one of the neighbouring towns. So I think it was 265 10 and 11-year-old students through both factories in one day. It's complete chaos, but it's the start of the journey. It means that they understand not just our 2 factories, but 2 neighbouring factories as well. They can see real life inside the factory, and that's the
trouble
start
is
of the journey.
most companies would say we can't do that. It's health and safety.
Yes, because they'd panic about 10 and 11-year-olds going wild in the factory.
But we work very closely with the local council, Bretland Council, and they organise all the transport and helped us with the day. So it's a collaboration of things.
They did go wild in the factory, but it was a good wild. Obviously, half of them couldn't care less about what we're doing, but the other half are really engaged, and we showed them what we did. They had a little bit of hands-on experience. They all built a mini logo figure, so like a Lego figure, but it wasn't Lego. On a little production line, so they all took that home, and that had a QR code so they could share with their parents where they'd been and hopefully look at opportunities within the factory, not just for the young people, but also potentially for their parents. So like, oh right, okay, that sounds interesting. Maybe I might want to retrain.
Because that's half the battle as well that I've found over the years, trying to encourage young people into engineering, is their parents not really getting it because they just think, of that typical like car mechanic or something as that being an engineer, and it's so different now. So it's great that through that little thing of a QR code, parents can then see what you're all about as well.
I think it's also about doing things in our local town. We've traditionally done things all over the county, or a couple of counties, or all over the country. We've really focused on our local academy. So our local academy has over 1,000 students there. So we take on 4 manufacturing apprentices every year. Well, they can all come from our local academy. So we decided we'll spend all of our time and resource working with them to make sure that they all know about Warren Services. So we do assemblies, we supply all the DT materials to them. So they start on this journey and think it's a possibility.
Yeah.
And our apprentices go back and teach in the school day.
Help in the school
God,
sometimes.
this is so good. This feels like it should just be
That's exciting.
replicated in every school around the country with all the businesses that
Yeah,
need
it's not difficult. It's just we have to treat the acquisition of our future workforce like we do business development.
Yes.
So we've got teams doing business development. Well, we need talent development, talent acquisition, because locally we could just try and pay 50p an hour more to take a welder from another factory or a machinist, but that's not going to help anyone. We need to increase the labour pool. So that's either kind of come from young people entering the industry or taking people who potentially have been long-term unemployed and bringing them into our sector.
reskilling them. What I think's really interesting, and it stands out to me from what you're saying, is your relationship with other organisations. So you mentioned the council, and you've mentioned the college and schools, the academy. What was it like building those relationships? Because that's sometimes the barrier where businesses say to me, I've tried to go into the local school, they don't want to hear from us, we're not in the curriculum, or the council haven't replied to my messages, or whatever it is. So that must...
But what used to piss me off was, way back, the school would say, if you can't get a degree, you can always get an apprenticeship, and that just used to wind me up. But that has changed.
We are
now.
over. I do really believe we're over that. In the last couple of years, you've got quite a lot of parents now thinking, do I want my child to get £50,000 worth of debt, or maybe they could do a more apprenticeship type route, whether that's a more skilled, like manual apprenticeship, or maybe it's a apprenticeship in a completely different sector that actually earning while you're doing the job. Lots of children at 16 have had it with school.
Yes.
School is what it is. It's schooling. There's very little practical, there is some practical, and we try and help that by supplying lots of DT material, so they've got that. It's not a budget constraint. But if they're not keeping them in schooling for another 2 years without adding something they want to do, I'm not sure it's going to have any effect.
Yeah, because that's the reason why we've got so many young people who are not in employment, education and training. It's why we've got mental health problems in young people. It's because they feel disengaged, they feel underwhelmed and don't know what to do with their lives because they've been in this education setting and they've never seen anything outside of it.
But we've been taking them from 16, but everybody says you've got to carry on in education, but they haven't made it clear that somebody could leave at 16 and get a job.
Yes.
There's lots of people now think they've got to go to college.
Yeah.
But they're really at college and they don't really want to be at college, and all they're doing is just winding up the tutors and stuff like that.
And sometimes, and stopping the ones that want to be there, learning, so they need to be. And it's quite often they would have failed academically, but actually when you get them into an environment where that learning is necessary for their job, they blossom.
Yeah, of course, because it's tangible and it's applied, and that makes a huge difference.
We're both really dyslexic. My son's also dyslexic. I think it's a superpower. I think I know lots of people in business that are dyslexics, and yes, it does. For me, it was difficult with reading and writing, but actually, it makes you think about things differently. But if you've got a child, I had amazing parental support. If you've got a child that hasn't got that parental support and maybe slips through the net, they just get disillusioned. So then suddenly when you put them in a working environment where they're succeeding and someone's patting them on the back and going, you've done a great job today, they're like, great, I want to learn more.
I didn't realise I was dyslexic until they said that William was dyslexic, and then they tested me and said, well, you're dyslexic. And I was a slow learner, or
I hate
a little bit thick or whatever.
That drives me nuts, because look at how successful you are. I hate that. It really could. The way we silo people when they're young and say you're thick or you're clever based purely on this very regimented academic route really drives me nuts. It's interesting you mentioned, though, that you had parental support when you were, kind of struggling with dyslexia. Did you And you're saying, Richard, that you didn't know you were dyslexic. So what did you do? Like, how did you work it out, and what did you do to
Will
help
was one
him?
of the first people to be recognised in Norfolk for dyslexia. We had to go privately and get him
Yeah.
diagnosed and everything like that.
Because
And
what was happening, like, for you to then take that measure?
I
Like,
was lucky as well. At primary school, I had a teacher called Jerry Christopher who was doing a PhD or something like that around like child education, and he was like, something, I don't think Will's just a bit thick. I think there
Yeah.
might be something else. So then I was sent off to have lots of different tests, and my parents would always want the best for me. I also had the advantage of I was going to work with my father when I was about 8, so I could see that I could understand how things went together, and so it wasn't like my brain was it just couldn't do and that can become very frustrating for young people at school because they know the information. They might understand history, they might understand science, but they can't write it down. So it has got a lot better now. It's now
it's recognised and dealt with better.
Yeah.
Not in all cases, but in...
And what we're lucky is we got an unbelievable college in Bury St Edmunds, West Suffolk College. They're now outstanding in all areas and everything like that. And I've worked with the principal now. He's Greek guy, Nikos Savos. Unbelievable guy, and I've worked with him now for 13 years, and the college is just not I wouldn't say work with him, but the college he's just an inspirational leader.
Yeah, they want to work. But going back to your point where companies say, "Oh, I tried," what really annoys me sometimes is you get companies that just want to moan. They what we have to do as companies is actually look back at ourselves. We could blame the government, we could blame the college, we could blame the young people on their phones all the time. But actually, we're not going to change that. We can try and influence government and young people and schools, but we need to make the job more exciting.
Yeah.
I employed an apprentice and they left. Well, did you give them a decent job to do? Did you pay them correctly? Did you talk to them about what interested them? Because just because a young person doesn't necessarily engage in that type of apprentice, it might be that they're interested in electrical but not installation. They're more on the control side, or these young people don't necessarily know until they get in the workplace, and you've got to allow them to grow into their roles, I think.
It's so refreshing to hear you talking like this because obviously, I do listen to lots of people moan about it and it is always everyone else's fault. And I don't discount what they're saying because, there is a part to play in terms of government and education.
Yeah.
We've just talked about the problems with it. But you're right. What's good is it's business's job as well to just deal with the uncertainties and whatever's thrown at them and find ways around it. That's being an entrepreneur, isn't it?
We can all sit around and moan about Rachel Reeves and that the NI's gone up and the minimum wage, but that's everyone's being affected by that. So you might as well, why moan about it? Let's crack on and do something to make it better rather than worrying about moaning.
We've got a saying, whatever shit they throw at us, we'll find a way through it.
Yeah.
And that's... You're not going to change what government makes a decision or whatever, and it's exciting that that I personally get more satisfaction out of training young people than hopefully trying to make some money.
Yeah, and you can see that, but inevitably one leads to the other, doesn't it? So you train someone good, they stay with you, that makes you money, it increases your productivity, helps the economy grow. It's a win-win situation.
Well, we've got a young lad who came to us straight from school and he said, I want to be a welder. Well, I've never had anybody come to me and say, I want to be a welder, because it's not the most clean job or whatever.
Yeah.
And now he's running one of our factories.
Amazing. And there's loads of jobs in welding as well. They're desperate for welders at the minute. All the defence money and everything.
Yeah, and also you see, we've just appointed 2 new directors to the board of directors at Warren Services. Both of those were apprentices. One of them did 2 apprenticeships with us. And the young lady, Sophie, she did her apprenticeship somewhere else and then joined us. 50% of our workforce are apprentices. Most of the senior leadership in the businesses. So when these young people join, they can look at, say, Kieran and go, well, he came on work experience at 14. He joined the business at 16. He worked his way up through the business. Now he's the factory manager. And then he's going to be wanting to be a director at some point. Or I could be a technically expert person. We've got people that are very good in their roles as welders or machinists. They might choose to go that route, or they might end up in the office doing in quoting or procurement or something like that. So the roles...
And a lot of people say they don't want to be in engineering, but we don't just take people for engineering apprenticeships now. We've got people in
accounting and you kind of all
HR, accounting, quality, business admin. We've actually got 2 young ladies that now reskilled with us who worked in the childcare sector.
Wow.
We do need more people in the
And
childcare
how
sector.
did you
But
find them then? Like, so when you're trying to find these people, what's that like?
we're very, very lucky. We've obviously got
Doesn't
this...
sound like luck, by the way. This is not
No,
lucky.
you create your own luck.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
but
totally do.
we've got this history. You know, like my father said, both my grandfathers were apprentice engineers. My father was an apprentice. My sister was an apprentice. We also have my sister, Estee. She looks after all the HR training, staff development, and she's got an eye for these people. One of the young ladies was the fiance of one of our other apprentices. Well,
Right.
he'd already finished his apprentice, so she joined. And then
Family affair, love
the
it.
other young lady, I think just through us talking to the local community, because we try and do quite a lot in the local community, like we've built beacons for, you know, celebrating, you know, different events. We made 2 of those, one for the marketplace, one up by our factory. We just made a 3-metre long train for Thetford in Bloom, and so we do have our name out there. So then when we do reach out, but I think employing people, we've got lots of husbands and wives, fathers and sons, grandmother, mother, daughter, you know, it's sort of, and people...
And you only get out of life what you put into it. And that's, we're known for that. Sometimes probably we're concentrating on more things than what we should be on our business, but what goes around comes around, doesn't it?
And it works, doesn't
And
it,
it's
if you've
that-
got that reputation.
Once you've got those apprentices, you've got to want to develop them. My sister meets with each of them every month. Richard spoke to both the year 2 and year 1 apprentices, and just, you know, because they do need telling sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
they are young people. Some of them are, you know, they're 16 when they join, so they do develop. And it isn't the easiest thing in the world, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. And we train and we keep quite a lot, and we do lose some that then go and they're all in engineering or manufacturing, just other businesses.
And they've got amazing skills and experience that'll set them off in any sector.
We've got a reputation now. If somebody leaves, somebody might know about us. They could leave us. Somebody just recently, I better not say the company where they went to, but, you know, he was all computer programming. He said, well, I need some tools to be able to, oh, no, you don't touch the tools. You just do the computer work.
Yeah.
You know, and they could do a whole range of things. They go
Yeah,
round.
they're not thinking in the bigger picture.
Siloed into one particular.
So what would your advice be? Because everything you're doing sounds brilliant. Like, you know, the engagement with the community, your relationships with like the council or the schools and colleges and things. Clearly your staff development is key. But what, you know, if there are businesses listening to this or colleges listening or whoever, what would your advice be in terms of how to do what you're doing?
I'd say one of these, obviously working with year 6 primary school children, that's us thinking 5 or 6 years ahead. Lots of schools with year 10 and 11, so they're ready to leave that year or the next year. So that's closer to employment. They quite often want to do careers events or get people to come in and do talks. So if you can get in front of those people and make your business sound exciting, you know, maybe some video content. We do the careers event, but rather than just having a table with some pens and just sat there like unengaged, we always make sure we have a 50-50 male-female split. And we always have an activity. So we do a Lego challenge, and we also work with a partner called MIG Anglia that supplied welding equipment to us for 40 years and have a virtual welding system.
Amazing.
So then you can have a go at welding, you can have a go at Lego challenge, and then the winner of the Lego challenge, we go back into the school and present a prize. So it gets another connection with the school. I go in and speak to all of them in year 10 about apprenticeships in general as well as our business. So you can have quite a big impact with a smaller amount of time if you don't want to invest as much time as we do.
One of the things we haven't picked up, work experience. I think that's one of the most important things for young people. So we will not take any young people unless they've come and worked for us for a minimum of a week or whatever, so they can come in the summer holidays or whatever.
What age do you do that with then?
15. So they're last year at school. So part of the apprenticeship, we release our apprenticeships in September for the following September. So that means the school can talk to all those young people about an apprenticeship that's actually available. Part of that process is we then have an open evening for parents and children or potential employees, because their parents are still quite helpful if they're around, if they're bought in. So they all come, then they come on a work experience program as part of that. And then we then select those and they get offered their apprenticeship in Easter. So before they do their exams. So they're unconditional offers. So we're not interested.
In GCSE results or
It
whatever.
would be nice if they got English and maths, because then we don't have to do it again.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I've had one of the mums was like, but I'm not sure Johnny's going to get
Yeah.
a 4. And I'm like, if Johnny could get his head down and work a bit harder and get a 4, because he's probably capable of getting a 4, he's just a bit disengaged. Just as long as he knows he's going to have to do it again. So that's what I try and tell year 10 students. If you don't really like English and maths, you're going to do it again. So you might as well work with your teachers. The school like it because they
Yeah,
want to get
and get it
maths and
done.
English. Yeah.
But
Get
one
it in
of
the
the
bag.
main things we want from anybody is the right attitude. If
Yeah.
they've got the right attitude and they're honest and tell us we've got
Yeah.
a problem with English and math, we can help them through
We've got
that.
young
Yeah.
people that will struggle with their English and maths, but they want to learn. They want to work. They want to work in RFI. So what more could you want? You know,
Yeah.
we can deal. There's dictation tools. There's different ways. You now some of the assessment can be done by a video. You know, it's not. You just got to try and think of a solution. But I think for some employers, if they haven't got a good college, they've all got to group together maybe and demand change, because the colleges should be delivering what we want. But I've been at an event before and someone gets up and goes, oh, the college are not doing this. And I got up and said, well, what have you asked them to do? And they went, nothing. I went, well, the best thing you can do is
How
sit
did it-
down
yeah,
and
what
then
are they gonna
potentially
know?
afterwards have a conversation
But
with
our,
them.
Yeah.
our college, you know, we love our college, but they're not perfect
No.
in all ways. But if there's an issue, they know,
Yeah,
you know, it's
you've got a
serious
good
and
relationship.
what can we do about it?
Yeah. I want to know as well, do you always wear safety glasses wherever you go?
Yes,
Well,
I've
yeah.
got to be safe all the time. So this happened from the factory. We had to wear safety glasses, you know, in the factory, and I was
Yeah.
like, I need to be wearing my safety glasses. So I got prescription ones that I thought, oh, I could wear those, and then it's become like an in joke that I just wear them all of the
Yeah,
time.
they look really cool, but it's hilarious that they're also safety
Yeah.
glasses.
You never know what might happen in London. You know, you're down here.
Yeah, you know, do you
all-
feel safe now in the studio?
But going back as well, I must say about Make UK, when we
Yeah.
were in the little old school, employed 6 people, we joined Make UK really for the legal side, you know. But over the years, we've worked with them for well, probably 30 odd years
Yeah.
now. And, you know, I mean, we've not had any, serious problems with, you know, employment law or anything like that. They've been really, really good.
Yeah.
So,
So being part of a like you said, a
Organisation.
trade
Yeah.
association or whatever really helps.
I think that does, and they were the driver behind National Manufacturing Day, which
Yes,
we
exactly,
wanted
yeah.
a day to celebrate, you know, and the work that Enginuity are doing. I help with their, you know, industry board. I chair that nationally, and people do want to make a difference. I think it's just maybe us all working together to
Yeah.
find something that we can be impactful, so we're not all doing completely different things.
Yeah, and it's worth just reminding everyone as well that you've just mentioned it there, that the National Manufacturing Day is literally for everyone. So if
Yes.
you're an organisation,
yes, you don't have to be a member of Make UK. or
Yeah,
anything
and
like
it's
that.
a great way of opening your doors, as
The
you
last
say, to schools. and
Thursday
things.
in September every
Yeah.
year now.
Excellent. You're on brand as well. I like it. You know, everything. Well, thank you so much for coming in for a chat, because honestly, it's been really enlightening hearing what you're doing and how you're.
Well, and thanks to
getting-
you for what you do for. You've
Well-
really turned things around.
Well,
with
I
engineering.
think it's, you know, I know how brilliant our, you know, country is at making stuff and what we do and the graft that goes on behind the scenes, but just not enough people do, I think, and that's part of the problem. So, which is part of the reason why we're doing this. Anyway, it's mutual appreciation between us all,
Thank
isn't
you,
it? But
yes.
thank you so much. And that's it from me on Steph on Skills, powered by Enginuity. Thanks very much for watching and listening.